What's going on, everybody? Rob Doster here from the Field of 68. And today we're going to bring you another episode in our NBA Draft Prospect Profile series. These are going to be dropping throughout May and throughout June, a couple a day. So if you do like this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and do hit that like button. Anything that you can do to interact with these videos, it really does help the channel. It helps more people like you find this content. And since I have you here, make sure you check out our Instagram and TikTok pages. We are going to be pumping out more unique content over there throughout the spring and the summer heading into the 2022-23 college basketball season. Like, for example, did you know that Penny Hardaway was shot when he was in college? I didn't know that. You can find that story right now live on our TikTok and Instagram pages. The links for those are in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into another Field of 68 NBA Draft Prospect Profile. Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's 2022 NBA Draft Prospect Profiles. My name is Rob Doster. I have Jeff Goodman here with me today, and we are going to be talking about one of the best prospects in all of college basketball and a potential number one pick in Gonzaga center Chet Holmgren, the 7'1", 185-pound center for the Bulldogs. Goodman,
he told me 188. He told me 188 when I talked to him early in the season. So I don't know if he's lost a couple, gained a few. He might be 190.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he can finally crack that 200-pound barrier, I think that's what's holding him back. But look, he averaged 14.1 points, 9.9 boards, 3.7 blocks, and shot 39% from three on more than 3 attempts from beyond the arc this season, Jeff. But the biggest question is always going to be about that weight and about that physicality and about whether or not he's going to be strong enough to hold his own in the post in the NBA. Where do you stand on him as a potential number one pick?
He's like the anti-Zion, right? Like, we worried about Zion Williamson because he was too big and too strong and too athletic and the pounding he would take. Well, we worry about Chet because of the pounding he'll take because he's 190 pounds and he doesn't look like he's got the frame to be able to add another 30 or 40 pounds over the course of his career. I love Chet. I do. I love Chet's toughness. I think he's got shit to him. I think he's skilled. I think he's terrific defensively. I just worry about what most of the NBA guys have told me they worry about. And that's the concern. Again, will he hold up and can he play in the league in the next couple of years? Because frankly, from a physicality standpoint, especially with his base and his lower body, well, both. I mean, really, it's his entire body, not just his lower body, but his upper body too, and just the ability to kind of hold his ground against grown men at the next level. Can he handle it?
Yeah, I think we saw some of it in the NCAA tournament, right? He had issues with the strength and athleticism of Jalen Duren. He had issues with dealing with Jalen Williams of Arkansas in the game that Gonzaga lost in the Sweet 16 this season. I think that there's two issues for me, right? The biggest one is that he's not going to be able to hold his ground physically, which wouldn't be a problem if you could trust on the offensive end of the floor that he would be able to take advantage of someone that's a little bit bigger and more physical than him. But he's a great shooter. You're never going to contest his release because of how high it is. But for someone with that level of skill and that level of handle, I don't know how he's going to be able to create separation on his shots. He was more of a catch and shoot guy than he was put it on the floor, create something for himself in the half court. In transition, he's fine. But that's my question is in the half court, where are you going to find him being able to create his own? And if you can't do those two things, I think
you got to be an elite shooter, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be an elite shooter. He's not quite that. He was damn good. He was better than I thought from three for 90% of the season. He fell off at the end of the year. But for the most part, he shot 44% from three most of the season, which I didn't think would be the case. Again, I love his tenacity. I think he's got some shit to him. I think he's tougher than most people think when you look at him. But ultimately, you're right. If he's not making threes, can you give him the ball in the post? I don't think so. I think people are going to push him out of the post. And defensively, the question is, can he make the same level? He was in the WCC. It wasn't like you said, you go up against Memphis, you go up against Arkansas, some athletic bigs. In the WCC, he's playing, bigs that are average athletically, and I might be being kind. to some of those programs. And he had his way for the most part in that league. It's going to be a major jump for him. I feel like I wouldn't take him number one because that is a concern of mine. You know, will he hold up long term? And you're putting a lot of investment in the number one overall pick. I think mentally he can handle being the number one pick. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's all physical for me. It's all the body frame. And again, will he be able to add that weight? And if he can't, you're going to have to wait at least 2 or 3 years. He's a project early on in his NBA career.
And you know what the other problem with that is, Jeff, is he's old for a freshman. He turned 20 on May 1st. Yeah. So it's not like you're drafting a kid that's 18 years old where you know they're going to fill out. That 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old time frame is one of the most important periods for a player when it comes to their physicality and growing into their body and their frame. And Chet's kind of through that almost. And look, here's my other thing is we're kind of
we've been too negative.
That's what I was about to. That's what I was about to say is that the most annoying conversation of this year's draft cycle, I think, is going to end up being whether or not you take Chet Holmgren number one. So I'm going to tell people why you would take Chet Holmgren number one. It's not that often that you find people that are his size that are as good as he is defensively. And look, let's call it what it is. He is an elite rim protector. Yeah. If guys like Walker Kessler didn't exist, we would call him the best rim protector in this year's draft class. I think he's better than people give him credit for it, switching out on the perimeter, although he's not great at it. There is a real possibility that he can be kind of like a Clint Capella type that also happens to shoot at 35, 36, 37, 38% from three. And players like that with his handle, with his skill set, and with the, like, look, you said this earlier, he doesn't look like he's tough as shit, but that dude is tough as hell. He is a competitor. He is a fighter. He is a dog. He has the exact kind of personality you want out of an NBA player.
He likes the contact. That's the one thing. He doesn't shy away from it. He enjoys it. So I think that's in his favor. And again, the biggest thing for me will be him making that three, because I think he can put on the floor.
Yeah,
I just feel like can he absorb the contact right around the rim? If he does put in the floor, he's got to develop a really good pull-up game from 15. Right, that's the other part, because if he can get to the rim, he's going to dunk over dudes. I mean, he's got the 7'6" wingspan.
Yep.
So he is long as shit. And again, he's super skilled. And I think part of the reason somebody's going to take him number one, if they do, the fear of missing on the next great player, right? Like, you kind of know what you're going to get out of Paolo Banchero for the most part. I think you know what you're going to get. I know we'll talk about him on another profile here. Jabari Smith, I think you kind of know what you're going to get out of him a little bit too. With Chet, there's that unknown. And the great unknown with Chet Holmgren is, man, if he does put on weight, holy shit, what can he become? There's nobody else like him in the NBA right now. The skill level, the length, the dominance potentially on the defensive end. And it could be dominance on the offensive end. Again, if he can get to imagine if he can get to like 235 in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, then he could be an Anthony Davis kind of a player. Like, I don't think that that's outside of his range of outcomes. Imagine if you took Anthony Davis and gave him the personality you want to see a player like Anthony Davis have, right? You give him that kind of competitiveness, that kind of drive, that kind of fire, the kind of anger that everyone always complains about when it comes to AD. That's what Chet has. That's what his ceiling is. You know what the difference between Anthony Davis and Chet Holmgren is? It's about 1.5 feet of width in the shoulders. Right. That's why Anthony Davis is able to get to the size. Like, he's big and he's physical. And if you look at him when he was in college, he was a twig. He looked like Chet Holmgren if you were looking at him from the side. Then they turn and you look at him from straight on, and you could fit 2 Chet Holmgrens in the size of Anthony Davis. So that's the concern right there. And that's why I wouldn't take him number one. I would probably look, this might be a hot take, but if I'm taking Jabari and Paolo 1 and 2, right? And I am probably having a conversation, depending on what team I am, at number 3, if I want Jaden Ivey, if I want maybe Shaedon Sharpe, if I want Chet Holmgren. I mean, I think his potential makes him a lock top 4 pick, top 5 pick, but I don't think that it's guaranteed that he goes number 3 for me. I think there's more of a conversation. I'm worried about that
listen,
the physicality.
I've talked to multiple NBA GMs and they're with us. They're with us, but they're also terrified. And that's how NBA GMs are, right? They're terrified that it could cost them their job if they have the number 1 pick and they go with a guy like Paolo, who becomes a really good NBA player, but not a dominant franchise changing NBA player, which we both know if everything lines up for Chet Holmgren, he could be that. He absolutely could be that if he gains the weight. And that's our only issue. You know, to me, again, I think he's definitely a top 4 pick. Well, 5 pick for me, because you know where I stand on Shaedon Sharpe. But I think there are more question marks with Chet Holmgren than any other pick in the top 5, which is crazy to say for a guy who dominated for the most part in college. But again, he did it in a league in which he overmatched so many other bigs from a length and athletic standpoint.
All right, so I'm gonna say something, and you're probably gonna think that I'm absolutely crazy, but I want you to look at the picture that I just texted you. Okay, look at your phone. Look at the picture that I just texted you.
All right.
Who is that? I'm gonna put it up on the screen. It's gonna be up on the screen when people are seeing this. Who is that?
Yeah,
that's Giannis.
Giannis, and he was
and look how skinny he was when he was.
But he didn't have like the inverted chest. Like it was just.
No, I get it. But to your point, and what you're talking about with the fear that NBA GMs have is that Giannis went 15th, right? And what happens is a lot of teams will look at the draft as saying, okay, we have to shoot for the fences, because if we just draft a guy that's going to be a good rotation player for the next 10 years, you can go and find that in the free agent market, right? There's lots of guys that are really good basketball players that could do a good job for you in a specific role in the NBA. What there aren't a lot of are game-changing, franchise-changing, potential MVP candidates that can go out and win you an actual NBA championship, which Giannis has done. And they got him at 15th. And everyone saw what his potential was. No one thought that he could get there. That's why teams are terrified of passing on Chet, because there is, however small that percentage is, there is a percentage chance and a real potential outcome for him to be as good as Giannis Antetokounmpo at the NBA at the next level. And I don't think, is that a hot take? Is that crazy to say?
Yeah, it's crazy.
You think it's crazy?
I think it's crazy. Well, just because of what Giannis has become. But yes, from a standpoint of you look at Chet and you say to yourself, all right, what can he do if he puts on the weight? He can shoot it from 3, which Giannis can't do, right? He can be a dominant defensive player. Again, if you're adding, he's already a pretty damn good defensive player at the college level, but he's got to gain weight to be able to do it at the NBA level and get his core stronger. He can put it on the floor. He can do that. He can finish, again, dependent on his strength. He can finish. So I guess, yes, if everything clicks together and he gains the weight and he looks like, not Giannis, he's not going to have that body. But so many guys, again, I look at Jason Tatum and he's jacked right now. And he was not, and he avoided contact at all costs 3 years ago. People forget that. So yeah, I think Chet would be a guy that you could say is one of the more versatile, well-rounded players in the NBA in 3 or 5 years. You could also say that Chet Holmgren couldn't really make it in the NBA in 5 years and just couldn't gain weight and couldn't withstand the physicality of the league and got hurt. And that wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah, there's a risk on both sides. There's a risk in taking him, and there's a risk in passing on him, which is why he's going to be the most fascinating, the most polarizing, and probably the most overcovered potential top 5 pick in this year's NBA draft. So with that said, this has been the 2022 NBA Draft Prospect Profile for Chet Holmgren for the Field of 68. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are going to be doing more than 45 of these prospect profiles throughout May and throughout June. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and you'll be able to follow along our YouTube channel for all of these profiles. Until next time, I'm Rob Doster, and that was Jeff.